I got to agree with Cece that before all COVID and all that, and then this society's the same. I think I've told Philip the same thing. It's like, yeah, they're throwing stuff out there and stuff to look good,
Mm.
but what's changed? You know, same stuff is happening. Um, the hardest thing, like I think Blake was talking about, on top of experience, is like, who is our main teachers in life? It's our
Mm,
parents. Like, I know my parents, you know, we grew up in a religious household.
yeah.
And so the hardest thing is, I think society thinks that government's going to help us or teach, you know, the racist or semi-racist, or if you have any part of racism in you that maybe you don't even know. It's not government's job to teach us, because we all know we favor
Right.
what our parents teach us.
Absolutely.
And so that's why you still have these crazy racists or KKK or Trump people, because their parents are encouraging it to their kid. Their kids see their parents like, oh, yeah, they're all into Trump or they're all into this. And it'll just perpetuate. The only way is somehow organically, like Blake said, there has to be some type of change in the parenting, because no matter what, we all end up somewhat like our parents,
So
or
going on
whoever
to,
our
so like to piggyback on what you guys are saying, and we talk about like, so what can you do, and what, you know, to move us forward. So yeah, you know, Biden being elected is the first step, but here's what I want to say, and no one will doesn't have to agree with me, but unless we have shared values about justice and equality and opportunities, unless those values are shared, because as you all pointed to, just reiterated, that it starts at home. Like, we all have our worldviews, and our worldviews comes from how we were raised, and kind of the first thing that I said, and when I started talking in this forum. And unless we have that, there's going to be this, I take 5 steps forward and then we take 2 steps back. Unless there's a shared value system, and people lead with a moral compass, I don't know that it's going to be sustainable. You see what I'm saying? Like, there's hope, and we can be hopeful. And I'm not saying that, I'm not playing Debbie Downer, but I'm just being real and saying, like, if we don't start the conversation with, and start it with us and we, and have these shared values to bridge the gap, it's going to be a fruitless endeavor, because we're going to take 5 steps forward and 2 steps back. You know what I mean? And I'd be interested, is your name Mike, to see what your thoughts are about all these conversations. We haven't really heard from you. And I see like some of the stuff that we're saying, I'm wondering, like, oh my goodness, would they shut the fuck up? So I'd like to certainly hear some of your experiences.
That's a little bit of a Pandora's box, right?
So, yeah, but I want to hear it, because I think it is.
We know.
No,
I think when we share our stories, we heal each other. That's my therapist talking, but for real, seriously.
No, and I mean, I'm sitting here, I'm taking in everybody else's perspectives, right?
Mm-hmm.
I try to do that and be a little bit more reserved with the way I answer these kinds of questions.
Mm-hmm.
Let the gears turn a little bit. I have a vastly different experience growing up than everybody here, it sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
I went to a very, very small rural school in central Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
We had one black family and one Mexican family. Everyone else was white. So there was no real cultural blend. I'm fortunate that I grew up in a house, however fucked up it was, that wasn't exclusive, right? My parents didn't raise me to hate people based on the color of their skin, or even different religious views, for that matter. I was raised to hate people for other reasons. I don't really hate people. I've known Phil since 2009. We were stationed together in Alaska. If I see an injustice that I can try to alleviate some of the problems, I will. Right? I think Phil can attest to that.
Yes.
But to answer like the big question about society, I tend to agree that society today is not different than it was before. The reason it seems like it's I don't know, in a downward trend. And I guess I'll speak more contemporarily than historically, or to Blake's point, looking at the technological aspect of it, right? I think in the last 25 years there hasn't been much of a change, but, and my wife and I were talking about this in the car, trying to prep a little bit so I don't look like an idiot. What we have or have had with our previous president is someone who does pander, right? So you see this environment that is more tolerant towards people just being assholes, and just kind of embracing it as opposed to repelling it, right? There's been strides that have been tried to be taken to alleviate some of those concerns, and I don't think that they've really succeeded. Obviously, because we had President Trump, right? So we had some problems, right? And on the political scale, I tend to lean more towards conservatism, because I like guns. I said, rural dude. I grew up in the woods, right? I like to go out. I like to shoot things, and like the whole dichotomy is, the left side, they want to take your guns, right? And the right side is like, oh, we want you to keep your guns and your God and all that stuff. I'm more in the middle, right? I listen to arguments. I try to get the compelling facts from both sides before making a decision.
Yeah.
A lot of people aren't willing to do that. They're either extremely one way or extremely the other, but it's very hard to find that middle ground.
Right.
I'm fairly fortunate that in the previous life, before moving to the big city in Ohio, yeah, I love it, Phil. Let it out. I need to hear that belly laugh. I gotta hear it, man.
I mean, you guys were in Alaska, you said, right? Oh my goodness, Lord have mercy.
Oh yeah,
we were in Alaska, and just to kind of like, and this is why like he's somebody that I really, because when I got to Alaska, I didn't have my permit or my license. You know what I mean? So I got up there. I'm 21 years old, mind you. So I probably should have had it when I was 16, but mom didn't have any type of consistent car or anything to where I could do that. I knew how to drive, you know what I mean? Because I would make midnight Taco Bell runs, holla at your boy. But I feel like, yeah, mom, mom be sleeping. I would go get her something to eat. So I knew how to drive, but I didn't have that. On top of that, it's Alaska. And so 8 months out of the year is freezing, and there's snow on the ground. So I didn't have a car, and so I was bumming rides off of people to get to work. Therefore, if the person that I caught a ride with wasn't there, I would have to walk. And that was like a 30-40 minute walk. So imagine what that's like in a place
negative
like 20 where it can get -20, -25. So after being late a few times, my senior Master Sergeant Ford sat me down and was like, what's going on? You know what I mean? Because you've been late a lot. And I was like, I don't have a vehicle. He was like, why not? I was like, because I don't have a license. And he was like, so let's get you your license. And I was like, I don't have a permit. And he was like, what? So basically we talked about it. And then I think Jentzen, I came into the room or something like that, and you overheard, or we start talking about it.
You were upset?
Yeah. And I told you what it was, and he told me he was going to take me to get my permit. So he did. And then he let me drive his car every day when we went to lunch until I was ready to take my my driver's test. I took my driver's test in his car. You know what I mean? So he got me my license, and then once he got me my license, he actually helped me look for a car until, I started wanting cars with rims and stuff. He wasn't in it.
Oh my God.
What are you trying to say?
But I say all that to say that, like, you and cuz what it is, like, we grew up in Erie. I went to East.
Yeah.
There might have been 5 white kids in the entire school. And not only that, but the new East High School, not the old one, because I think I got there the year after they moved everybody out of the old East into the new one. The new East is built like a prison. So there's pods. So think about that.
You don't it does look like that.
Yeah, like
that's the mentality.
Like blocks, you know what I mean? And so think about how they thought about the kids going to that school. They knew the demographic that was going to be there, and that's how they built the school. You know what I mean? And so I came up and stuff like that, and I experienced racism real young, like first grade young. You know what I mean? And Mom always talked to us about that type of stuff. And then I come across somebody like him. Somebody like Jentzen. I had came across white homeboys before. My other white homeboy, Nick, I tried to get him on here, but he hasn't shown up. But like, you know, I've had a couple of white friends, and then I come across somebody like him. He did not have to do that for me, and I did not expect him to do that for me.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because
like, right?
I would have expected somebody, because we had other people in there who could have did it. You know what I mean? But him being the type of person he was, he just said, hey, I see something, I can help fix it, and so I'm going to fix it. And then we got the we be on the sticks a lot, you know what I mean? Like, so we just got to playing the game. He actually got me into like Call of Duty and all that other stuff, and we just start talking. And then I found out how he grew up, and it was very surprising that he thought to help somebody like me coming from the city.
Isn't that wonderful?
But he said that he wasn't raised in an exclusive household, so that even more than that would mean that was the reason why he helped you. You know?
But it was the value system, so it goes back to the point. But he said his parents didn't raise him to be racist, so it goes back to that shared value system and using your moral compass. You know what I mean? Right. Obviously, he was taught that. You know what I mean? But I'm interested, Phillip. So, did this experience really change your view on Caucasians? You know what I mean? From what you've been exposed to.
Yeah, I think that he definitely helped it a lot. And I don't think I came into the mindset that I have about our people and stuff, our people and what we're going through until much later. But in terms of white people, I can't say that I was very trusting before I met him. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like before I knew him and before I learned who he was. He wasn't like, I would not have been as cool with white people or even willing to even give them a chance. You know what I mean?
You would have been on the defense.
Because, like I would have been, and I talked about this in one of my social justice classes. So we was in multicultural psychology. This white girl, we were talking about something with blacks versus whites, and she raised her hand and she said she gets tired of proving herself to every black person she comes across. She said that she didn't feel as though she should have to prove herself because she knows that she's not racist, and therefore every black person, like she just wished that black people would understand that that's not the mindset that she has. And so I waited for her to go. She said everything that she had to say, and my response to her was, if black people had that mindset, so many of us would be harmed. Right. Because every single day when we walk out of the house, we don't have a choice. We have to prove to everybody we come across that we are not the stereotypes that they have given us. I wear jewelry, earrings. I got a beard. I wear J's,
and you still rock it though, right? You still rock all that. You rock that fit, and you'll talk to the white man and the black man the same. I'm hearing this, bro, and I'm getting upset because, let me see. First and foremost, I work in the service industry. Half the last 10 years, I get paid to deal with the public, right? So I see a rainbow of people. I know how to move and talk to all of them a little differently. Some of us call it wearing hats. I call it being a human being. I talk to my daughter differently than I talk to my grandmother, different than I talk to my boys, right? So everyone gets a different version of Blake. That does still extend to anybody I meet, right? Whether they're white, Japanese, or goddamn whatever, Punjabi. I'm cool with that because I understand that people are just simply people. And as far as not trusting a white man because he's white, there's certain niggas I don't trust, bro. Some people I just don't trust. If you got a bad vibe, you got a bad vibe.
People,
off top. I'm not, for real, people are people. If you come at me grimy or weird, I'm going to have my guard up against you. And I'm going to still give you that clean slate off of it, any race or ethnicity that you may be. As soon as I meet you, it's hi, how are you doing? If you address me with respect, I'm going to mirror that energy. I'm going to reciprocate it. And we start at a zero scale, right? We're just fair and fine. Now, if you come at me doing things or showing stuff, if you come at me with a Confederate flag shirt on and a damn MAGA hat, I'm going to make assumptions, but you prepared yourself for those assumptions, right? You looked in the mirror and you know what those things meant before you wore them, before you purchased them or received them as a gift. You made that decision.
Right.
But everyone is clean slated with me, bro. Off rip. I didn't see none of these people. I don't know nobody in here except you and Candice. And I valued all their opinions. Whatever would have came out of anybody's mouth, I was open to hear it. I didn't just not trust this man off general purpose. You know what I'm saying?
What I'm saying is, while that might be your experience, my experience, and especially in the area where we grew up, like you would have to have been there to understand what I'm saying. It's not just. I'm not just saying that I wouldn't have trusted white people before I met Jentzen just because, like, I wouldn't have trusted white people before I met Jentzen. There have been enough instances in my life that have led me to believe that I needed to be on the defense to protect myself, whether or not I knew who that white person was. It didn't matter if I knew who they were. It didn't matter if I knew who they were, what they were about, where they lived, where they went to school, where they shopped. None of that mattered. I knew they were white. And because of my history, pre-Jentzen, that's how I would have viewed white people. Now, since Jentzen, you know what I mean? I am the type to give people a chance. You see Nelson on here. You know what I mean? Like that's my homeboy. And like I didn't know him from a can of paint. We just start talking because we was at the same place. You know what I mean? And I've done that with all of my other friends, especially the ones in Alaska. You know what I mean? Like every single one of my friends I went up to and I said something to them. But before he came around, the way that I experienced life, you know what I mean? And I understand what you're saying is talking as far as like being in the field that you're being in and being able to not code switch, but just being able to be a human being and speak to people on their level and being able to take people at face value and giving them what they gave you. My experience when I was young taught me that if I do that, I could be hurt. And not only hurt, I could be killed. You know what I mean? And so I had no choice but to be that way, because if I didn't, I had saw too many other people who did end up in situations like that, or you know, or whatever the case might have been. Which is why he is such a good friend to me, because I could have continued to be that way to me, but even in my hurt and my anger and my frustration in the situations that I was going through, somebody who didn't know me like that, reached out to me and decided to help me. You know what I mean? And for me, that was a huge thing, because like I said, as my experiences, through my experiences up to that point, ain't no white person ever did that for me before.
So do you think that your willingness to be open to receive his help changed? You know what I mean? Your view? Because, and I'm going somewhere with this. I'm going to play devil's advocate, because a lot of white people experience really bad experiences with black folks, and that's why they're like, I can't fuck with white people. I mean, but not black people, but you know what I mean? Like my sister, cousin's friend got beat up by a black person or raped by a black. So all black people are bad. You know what I mean?
Right.
And at the beginning of this, again, it goes back to what I said. We all bring our experiences. We can only speak from our experiences. You know what I mean? So oftentimes when I speak, I'm saying it's been my experience that blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, prefacing it.
Right.
And just curious, you know what I mean? Do you think your willingness to be open played a part in it? Because you could have been like, no, I don't trust, like that whole trust, not trusting factor. When he extended his, the olive branch, you could have been like, no, I'm not fucking with him because he's white. You know what I mean? But
that's ignorance. Philip's not gonna do that.
Do you know what I mean? So, but I'm saying, like,
but I don't even think that's ignorance, because
he could have been, but he's saying Yeah, he's saying his experiences made him the way that he was. And I'm saying, does he think that his openness to be receptive of Mike helping him change, you know what I mean, that? Because he could have not been willing to,
I
you know what I mean?
very well not been receptive to anything. I don't, so my openness was what Blake said. It was the way he approached me. You know what I mean? It was the way he brought himself to me to disarm me and my inclinations about who he was. You know what I mean? Or who he might have even been. Yes, I made assumptions. I you know, and in my personal experience, I had every right to make assumptions, because when I did not make assumptions, or when I chose not to be defensive, I saw things happen. So I had to be that way. But the way he brought it to me made me feel like, okay, like he might really be on to something. And then it wasn't just that he said it, but it was the constant, yo, we're going to do.
He kept being cool and he cared for
it every day.
He cared.
It wasn't
he cared.
just like, he said like, yo, I'm going to help you get your license. And then he got me the book and then just left me left me the fuck alone. You know what I mean? It was like, study the book, come back to me, I'll quiz you on it. No, he took me that Friday to go get my permit, and he stayed obviously, like, he was my ride, but like, he stayed the entire time. He could have just sat in the car. No, he came in with me.
And I suppose